Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your testimony and your continued exceptional service to our great nation. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your Alaska visit. You made your commitment to me clear, and you followed through on it very quickly in your tenure. I appreciate that. I was just back home for the last 10 days and hosted the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, and we had a good opportunity to meet with the 11th Airborne soldiers who are really impressive. I want to get your impressions on your visit, and then I wanted to ask on the Army Transformation Initiative. General, thanks for coming into my office last week, 2 weeks ago, to give an update. I want to get a sense of how the 11th Airborne Division will be impacted by that, particularly on two issues: the merging of the headquarters that may affect it, Fort Wainwright and J-Bear. We still want that to be a warfighting headquarters. I know you do too. It's been an admin headquarters for many years. I love the idea of the 11th Airborne now being the competitor to the 82nd Airborne. I know the 82nd Airborne has a storied history. So does the 11th Airborne, by the way, in World War II. A lot of people don't know that. But it's always good to have that good internal competition just for the 82nd Airborne folks watching. I do think the 11th Airborne is maybe not only catching you, but surpassing you, particularly on Arctic Ops. Maybe you guys can comment on that as well. But your impressions, Army Transformation Initiative, and then also the issue of the 11th Airborne's aviation assets necessary to complete that transformation from a Stryker brigade to a air assault unit up in Fairbanks. Want to make sure they're getting the proper helo assets, and what's your vision on that? So there's a lot of questions, but mainly your impressions to both of you on your Alaska trip. I think you guys are doing a great job up there. I think the morale's high. That's a unit that knows what it's all about now, which I think for a long time maybe it hadn't. And as you know, that purpose is important.
As somebody who was stationed at Fort Drum, New York, with the 10th Mountain Division, I think.
By the way, where there's no mountain.
I think I mentioned this in my hearing that you get there and there are no mountains there, and contrasting that with Alaska. And the training at Black Rapids, I mean, it is remarkable what soldiers are out there doing. I ended up doing an exercise with some of them, and it's hard and it's different, and it's just the way you have to think about moving soldiers up these mountains is, and a lot of the world is filled with this Arctic mountainous regions. And so the other part that kind of we blew my mind was we went to a testing facility where they were testing our equipment in these incredible freezers that would go -50, -60 degrees, and they would show you what happens to fluid and what happens to all of these different items that we, the United States Army, purchase that just the manufacturers either don't have the ability to do it or just don't take the time to do it. And there are all of these instances where we are buying $1 billion of something and finding out it can't operate in -20-degree temperature, which is cold, but it's not that cold. And so
Yeah, and you get that a lot up at Fort Wainwright.
you get it a lot. And so the soldiers will take nearly every piece of equipment they get out on these very cold days on behalf of the United States Army so we can learn. And we have learned a lot, and it has changed how we procure things. We try to get it to them earlier in the process so they can tell us if it works in those conditions.
So on the helo assets and the headquarters, in terms of Army transformation, I know, General, you mentioned to me you didn't think that was going to impact the ops and size of the units up at the 11th Airborne, but can you unpack a little bit of that right now?
I would say one of the things that we're trying to do with the Army Transformation Initiative, and again, this gets to continuous transformation and make sure we're moving forward. I think that's actually a capability. You mentioned, having a division up there that needs to be a warfighting capability, that we need to add, certain lethal aspects to that division. And so, again, what we've got to do is I think other places, it's why we're trying to lead the way with what we're doing, reducing here and in other headquarters. This is exactly the kind of capability that we need to grow. And because of 11th Airborne, I think I've told you there, if you can operate when it's 40 and 50 below, those troopers have proved that they can go anywhere. They're just physically tough folks that can do things, and we want to invest in that Arctic capability up in Alaska.
By the way, that came up a lot in our discussions with General Kane. The ability, the discipline, the leadership needed to operate at 40 below zero. If you can operate at 40 below zero, where it's hard to do anything, to your point, Mr. Secretary, you can operate anywhere in the world. You can operate in the jungle, you can operate in the desert, but you can't operate in 40 below zero unless you're trained, tough, and disciplined, and I think that's what those troops are becoming. So appreciate that. I'll have a few more questions for the record, but thanks for your leadership to both of you.
Thank you very much. Senator Peters.